Been thinking about the concept of objective experience. As a scientist, it's something that you have to assume in order to ever find a question that there is a universal answer, an answer that's true. But also, I think if you ask a scientist, is there objective experience, they would also immediately agree that there is no such thing. Interesting concept. Now, I've been realizing that it hovers at the edge of a lot of my understanding of reality, and I had the sudden realization that perhaps experience is the irreducible unit of reality, not atoms at all. Everything you study, no matter what it is, you run into some kind of limit. The more closely you study something, it just seems to fall apart. Physics, meaning, your identity, even the concept of reality itself. And we usually think that we're missing some piece of the puzzle. Like, we just haven't figured out what the right law is yet, or there's some hidden dimension governing things that we don't understand. But what if that's not what's happening at all? What if things don't break because we're missing the rule, but because the only rule that ever existed was actually experience? Let's talk about objectivism for the first, right? So this is the whole point of science and why we've built science on it, on objectivity, this concept that we can remove the observer, that there's a universal observer, that there's some eye observing reality from the outside. But there's not. There's just the stream of reality that we all exist in. And that stream is sensation, it's thought, it's memory, it's emotion. And the sense of self is something that shows up inside that stream. It's not something that stands apart of it. So science is built on this concept that we can get closer to the truth the more of these eyes that take a measurement. But all of these eyes are sensation, thought, memory, emotion. That's all any of us are really sensing our reality through. The universal observer gives us a lot of incredible things. It works really well. I'm not going to argue with that, but I think that we're quietly turning that tool of a universal observer into an assumption that there is one, that there is something that exists outside of each of us. When you begin studying the concept of experience itself, you realize that it's one thing you cannot remove the observer from. You can average people. You can standardize conditions, you can build equations that predict outcomes, but you're still describing the patterns in experience, not something underneath it. And maybe that's why laws keep breaking down. Like quantum mechanics work, but general relativity works until we hit singularities. Time behaves until we start pushing on it, and then everything goes fuzzy and paradoxical, and everyone starts arguing about how to interpret the data. But maybe the universe isn't misbehaving. We're reaching the edge of where law is even the right concept. I was watching this evening about the discoveries with the James Webb telescope, and it's confounding. We don't seem to understand anything, and it makes me think that all we're ever really describing at any one time, and we're calling it a law, is what we're able to define as a series of experiences in a confined space and time and context. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that law is fixed or applies to everything. It means that's what is observed by our experiences, our combined experiences here and in this context. We keep looking for this key, this explanation that works for everyone and everything, this universal truth. But maybe there isn't one. Maybe there's a billion keys. Reality is not knowable. Reality isn't singular. There isn't one lock. There's billions of locks, and each one opens from the inside. Objectivity, maybe it's not wrong. Maybe it's just not the truth. It's a technique. It works beautifully in certain domains, but it dissolves when we really look at it, especially the moment meaning, consciousness, or lived experience enter the frame. Maybe the real shift isn't finding a better answer. Maybe it's realizing we've been asking for a universal in a world that is, by its nature, plural. And once you see that, the breakdowns, they don't look like failures of law. They just seem like what is honest. You begin to understand that you're just observing what is and not scratching your head about why it behaves that way. And this allows you a lot of freedom in the experience.